Okay, hello and welcome to the first ever father and son Formula One podcast. As you might guess from the title, it's me, Graham Miller, who is the father, and my son, Toby. Say hi, Toby.
Hello. Hi, Toby. Sorry, I should...
Yes. I'm. I was actually trying to work out when I started watching Formula One. I think it was probably early 90s, because at the time I wasn't like a massive Formula One fan. Other people would watch it, and I was at university and I'd be around their house and it'd be on. I definitely remember like Senna and Williams winning everything and stuff like that. I definitely remember when Senna died, which was 94.
You remember when Williams were winning? That was many, many years ago.
Yeah, that really dates it quite badly, doesn't it? And then obviously I had kids, of whom Toby is the oldest, and as I grew up, it's a nice thing to do on a Sunday afternoon to watch the Formula One, and Toby watched it with me.
Yeah,
and
I can remember. I remember certain names. Like I remember seeing Webber and Grosjean as like, and Raikkonen. Obviously Raikkonen was around for a lot longer, but I remember seeing Webber, which is sort of, and Hamilton, obviously.
And do you remember Vettel winning everything in sight?
Weirdly, I remember more seeing Webber at the top, because I think maybe that was more novel because he retired in like 2013. And I sort of remember Vettel being the main threat in like 2018, because I started watching properly. The first full season I paid attention to was 2018, which is actually not that long ago.
No.
But I sort of dived very headfirst into it, and now I probably know more than Dad overall.
I was going to say, I think your kind of memory for stats and what's going on and kind of special interesting it is probably better than mine, but obviously I've been around a lot longer and I'm older, so...
Yeah, it's a balance.
And what we've done for the last couple of years is, because Toby has obviously moved out now, every like Sunday afternoon he would phone up for a chat, and eventually we'd drive my wife, his mum, absolutely mad, because a good half hour of the chat would just be us discussing what happened in the race that afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
So we thought, you know what, if we're going to do it anyway, why don't we record it and turn it into a podcast, which is what this is.
Yeah.
Right. Now, when we were planning this kind of around Christmas, January time, we were talking to each other, and I thought, there's not going to be much to say about the off-season gossip, because
Yeah.
for the first time that we can remember, the entire slate of 20 drivers who finished the season in 2023 are lining up in the same cars for 2024. There've been no driver swaps. So at the time, before everything happened, we thought, well, what is the off-season gossip?
Yeah, the reason it's the first time we can remember is because it's the first time it has ever happened in like 70 years. Yeah, first time since the World Championship, and I have to imagine all the way back to the 20s, because it was even more chaotic back then.
Well, yeah, back then you had like gentlemen drivers, and it was...
Yeah, but it is the first time in Formula One history. But then the off-season did make up for it.
Yeah, so let's hit some of the big headlines first. Lewis Hamilton, finally, for the first time in his career, has opted for a team without a Mercedes engine.
Yes.
Literally, I mean, the guy's 39, he's got, again, I need your stats brain, he's got like 16 seasons?
Well, he started in 07 with McLaren Mercedes as they were then. So...
16.
It'll be 8... Oh, God, I can't do the maths because you have to like include seasons, but 2025 will be 18... Actually, in his own words, he says it's been 26 years that they've been supporting him. Because he was a junior driver in karting and stuff for them, so it's been...
Yeah, and there's a story about him going up to Ron Dennis when he was like 11 and saying, I want to win world championships for you. And
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, and I find this really interesting because some drivers, looking mainly at people like Alonso and Button, are brilliant drivers and have a knack for choosing the worst team at the worst time.
Yeah, Alonso's really good at that, yeah.
Yeah, if Alonso chooses to drive for a team, you can guarantee it's about to start a slide down the tables. I mean, it's unfortunate. But Hamilton isn't. Hamilton, pretty much his whole career, has made some pretty shrewd moves. So you've got to wonder, what has he seen in that Ferrari? Obviously, they would have taken him to the factory. He'd have had a look around, some non-disclosure agreements, etc. So he must have seen something to persuade him.
Yeah, I mean, Fred Vasseur, I think... managed him in Formula 2, or was the team principal for his team in Formula 2. So he's kind of almost... I mean, Niki Lauda is who got him over to Mercedes. So I think it's a
Yeah.
similar thing of like, I know this guy and I trust him, and I think he's gonna, yeah, again, he's seen something that's convinced him to go over,
And also, I
or
saw yeah.
he's seen something at Mercedes that's caused him to jump ship, and he's not happy with it anymore.
Well, I saw an article that in 2022, Hamilton went to the engineers at Mercedes and said, "Guys, you're going in the wrong direction. I
Mm.
don't like this." And I know it's also been very heavily reported that he hated the 2023 car because of the side pod design and the radiators. It shuffled the driver a bit further forward, and he was sitting
Yeah.
quite a long way forward, and he didn't like that. So I think you could be right. I think I think Ferrari have been trying to poach him for years.
Well, of course they have. He's you know,
Yeah, he's the GOAT.
he's probably the best outright driver on the grid. You know, you can
Yeah.
maybe argue for Alonso, but I think Alonso's burned his bridge with Ferrari, as he has with every other team on the grid.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think Alonso, probably Verstappen and Hamilton are the three out and out fastest. Put them in a car, they'll go quick. Drivers on the grid.
Yeah, I would say.
But yeah, so I think he's kind of a bit fed up with Mercedes not listening to him, and as like the comments on the article were just like, the guy's a 7-time world champion. He's renowned for his technical feedback. Why would you not?
Yeah, I mean, I think some technical director somewhere in Mercedes left, if I remember, at some point. I don't remember the details, but I think there's a new guy who's in charge, and he basically started being in charge as soon as Mercedes started going downhill.
Yeah.
So it could be that could have something to do with it.
Yeah, but I mean, in the last day of pre-season testing, I have been a bit, actually, let's be honest, I've been a bit unwell. I haven't done a deep dive on the pre-season, but I have seen that in the last day, Leclerc and Russell were topping the timing sheets.
Yeah.
And obviously, hold your hands up, this is pre-season testing, they were running the ultra soft.
Yeah.
They were almost certainly running on vapors, ultra lean, crank everything up quali mode.
Glory runs, it's called, yeah.
Yeah. But it still does kind of indicate that this season might be a bit closer, and that, maybe Ferrari and maybe even Mercedes are closing the gap. So,
I mean,
it's one of those we'll have to wait and see, really.
I think lots of the other team principals have said that Red Bull's advantage is actually quite huge still, and it might have even increased. So, again, pre-season
there have
testing
been
kind of makes
1 second
nothing.
gaps.
Yeah.
There have been some 1 second gaps out there, let's be honest. Right, the other big story, and let's get our lawyers on speed dial.
Mm-hmm.
I've got written on my very rough notes here is two words.
Just the words.
Christian Horner.
Yeah, just the Christian Horner thing.
Yeah, the allegations that may or may not be true, and I mean, actually, I was... you go.
It is a weird situation because of how sort of quiet it is and how little they're making public, which kind of indicates that it's more than just what they've said, which is like a controlling personality or environment or whatever.
Yeah, it's... I mean, I'm not going to talk about the specifics of it because I reckon there's a super injunction or a D notice or whatever on top of all of it. What I think is going to be most interesting, especially over 2024, is to see... This is external pressure. This is something we've never seen Red Bull have to deal with before. And it'll be really interesting to see to what extent that filters down from the senior management, not just Christian, but the tech guys and engineers down to Max and Sergio, and to see how it actually affects when the rubber's on the road. What does it do to their lap times? Do they start making bad strategy calls? What is their mind going to be 100% on the job, or is there going to be another distraction? Let's be honest.
Yeah, I mean, because he is proper senior leadership. And it is his leadership that sort of brought Red Bull back.
Yeah,
but
I mean...
If he goes all together, what's going to happen?
I mean, I didn't realise this, but when they formed Red Bull in 2005 by buying Jaguar, they brought Christian Horner in, who's basically an not very good racing driver.
Yeah.
And he'd never been a team boss. He was the youngest boss on the grid, and he's the only team boss that Red Bull have ever known.
I think he might be the longest serving on the grid currently.
Oh, almost certainly.
I mean, the only ones who come close would be like Wolf, but he came in when Mercedes, came into existence in 2010, I think.
I was going to say it's like between 10 and 12, so he's not as long serving.
Yeah.
But and the other thing is that's been reported that it's probably indicative, whether or not the allegations are true, because Dieter, the Austrian owner of Red Bull, has passed away, sadly. There's now a power struggle, and for reasons I really can't understand, they want to get more Austrian influence within the whole Red Bull sporting arena. But, I mean, why you would sack a guy who's been your team boss for 20 years, who's brought home, I'm going to say, 7 drivers and 6 constructors championships?
Well, there was a 4-4 with Vettel, and then what's Max on now? 3 and 2.
Max is on 3, and I think it's 2.
Yeah, so 7 and 6.
So, I mean, if you turn around to Ferrari and said, oh, I've got a manager here, in the next 20 years he can bring you in 6 constructors championships and 7 drivers, the checkbook would be out. They'd be like, I don't care what he costs, we'll have him. That's an amazing record.
It is, yeah.
To want to bin somebody like that because he's not Austrian just seems...
I think
apparently there's arguments
something
with the Thai side of it as well, because Red Bull was formed... There was a Thai energy drink that Dieter Masterschitz found when he went out to Thailand, and he got in a partnership. And it kind of roughly translates to like Red Buffalo or something, which is why they called it Red Bull. But now there's like 51% Thai ownership and 49% Austrian, and within the whole Red Bull machine there was quite a power struggle.
Yeah.
Which people think this might be a facet of, but again, we don't know anything. Everything is shut down and legally locked up, so like I say, really the interesting thing will be to see how it affects the racing, how focused they stay, whether they start making bad calls.
Yeah.
I mean, interestingly, I have seen... I don't get this. Apparently, Red Bull have started copying Mercedes' failed side pod design from the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Mercedes and Ferrari are trying to copy what Red Bull did for the last 2 years.
But, I mean, Adrian Newey is Adrian Newey, and he's probably looked at what Mercedes were trying to do, and he's thought, oh yeah, but if you just did this and this and this, it would work. And then he's done that. Almost, yeah. People are saying, like, he's just doing it to annoy them now.
Also, yeah, I mean, if you're Adrian Newey, he could say, oh yeah, I can see what direction you were aiming in, and this is how you do it properly. Yeah, I can see that, actually. I totally can see that.
He can see airflow with his eyes, probably.
Yeah.
He's won, like, what was it, 20 total championships or something?
I mean, of all the
individuals
within Formula One, he is the most successful. Like, the number of people that he has put on the top step of the podium is ridiculous.
Unless you count, like, I don't know, Enzo Ferrari or something.
Yeah. But I mean, kind of direct influence.
Yeah, his designs have won over 200 Grand Prix and 12 Constructors' Championships with 3 different teams and 13 Drivers' Championships and 7 different drivers.
Yeah.
So but that's all him. It's not just like one driver or one team. It's just he is that good a designer. Yeah.
But then again, you've got to bear in mind, he is early to mid-60s.
Yeah, 65.
If he doesn't like this kind of pressure and politics that's going on at Red Bull, he might not jump ship. He might just go, oh, you know what? I'll retire. It's not an unreasonable age to retire. He must have,
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's all going to be worth watching, definitely, that kind of aspect of it. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if Ferrari are having conversations with him.
Yeah. But I kind of think Ferrari are too proud as, like, an organisation, in a way.
You think they wouldn't listen?
I don't think... And also I think they need consistency. Like, because Fred Vasseurs only been there for, like, a year. So if they ditched him now for Horner, it would just shake everything up again, and then they'd be behind for another couple of years.
And that always has been Ferrari's weakness, that they make a change and then they want to see a world championship the next year.
Yeah.
And actually what they need to do is make a change and then wait 5 years, which they can't because the Italian press will be all over them.
Well, again, Horner, right? He won 2013, and then he was still there for another 7 years while they weren't winning, and now he's slowly dragged them back up to, utter domination, the most successful team season that, like, anyone's ever seen.
Yeah.
Ferrari would have binned him in, like, 2015, probably.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the Italian press would have done. And the final list of off-season gossip, which really baffles me, is team name changes. Because although we got the same 10 teams, now on the official F1.com site,
Yes.
the Visa Cash App what is just down as RB.
Which is weird to me, because why did they not just say Racing Bulls, which is what it was going to be? Calling it RB is just kind of... It's like if another team called themselves AM, it's just confusing it with Red Bull.
Yeah, and they've always been known as Red Bull Racing or RBR, so...
Yeah, yeah.
Right, I am on the Formula One website, Formula1.com.
Well.
They are Deep Breath,
Mm-hmm.
Visa Cash App, RB Formula One Team.
Yeah, I've seen it shortened to VCARB.
Yeah.
Or just RB. I'm going to call them Toro Rosso because they look like Toro Rosso.
Yeah, it's so kind of 21st century that they're obviously selling, for advertising characters out of their team names so that, if you want to put a 4-letter word in, it'll cost you so many millions.
Yeah.
And the other one is that Alfa Romeo have now gone back to being Sauber, except they're now Kick Sauber.
Well, they're officially Stake F1 team Kick Sauber. Because Stake is a big gambling website and Kick is their associated streaming platform. It's like a Twitch competitor.
Yeah, and again, you see, that's just so 21st century. It's like, oh, we're doing this for brand awareness. It's not like...
Yeah, but I mean, they made cars look like cigarette packets back in the 60s, didn't they? Like, the Ferrari Red is only Ferrari Red because of Marlboro.
Yes. Well, actually, there always was a Ferrari Red. When Ferrari got the Marlboro contract, they went red and white, and they shifted the Pantone, the colour of from Ferrari Red to Marlboro Red, and they added a lot of white, and especially, I mean, there was some hilarious kind of 80s and 90s Ferraris where it was almost like those kind of magic eye things where they had the white Marlboro triangle and the red colouring, and they had words that suggested to your brain that you wanted to smoke a Marlboro cigarette without actually using the words Marlboro.
Mm-hmm. Like Philip Morris International.
Yeah.
Has the same branding, but it's not a cigarette company, we promise.
Yeah, it was really kind of flying around the edges of it. So, no, I mean, you're right, they have always been sponsored. And it's like,
if anything, it's very in the spirit of Formula One to be sponsored by a dodgy brand.
Yeah, and I mean, there are some really, well-loved ones, like the black and gold Players Lotuses.
Oh, yeah, they're gorgeous.
Yeah, you see, everybody's got kind of warm, fuzzy feelings, but actually Players is just another brand of cigarettes that kill you, so, yay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Mercedes are sponsored by an oil company.
I mean, that's a bit more on brand because they are cars. They rely on oil companies.
I will say my favourite is Williams being sponsored by Duracell and having the air intake look like a battery. Yeah, that's how you do it properly.
It's also a kind of sly nod to the fact that they're now hybrids as well, so there are actually batteries inside them.
Yeah, that is quite nice.
Right, the final thing, which I think is probably going to be the bulk of this, and I'm going to be relying on your stats brain a bit here, I've written team by team rundown.
For testing.
Yeah, how did they do in testing? I think we can all pretty much agree that Red Bull, at least at the beginning, it's going to be business as usual. Red Bull are probably going to start running away with it out of the gate.
Well, Max is anyway. We don't really know how Perez is going to be, whether he's actually got back to having his mindset right.
And again, you see, with the Christian Horner controversy, that might unsettle him. I get the feeling, the factory could burn down and Max Verstappen would turn up at 2 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon and win a race.
Probably, yeah.
I think he is that single-minded that he really wouldn't.
But then, if Horner was the one putting most of the pressure on Perez, if he goes, the environment might change and he might like it more.
Or even if his focus isn't so much on pressuring Perez.
Yeah, if Horner's busy, he's like, oh, good job, Sergio. Anyway, I've got to go to another hearing or whatever.
Yeah, if he's not got 100% of his focus on him, he might just be like, oh, actually, I've got a bit of space. I can actually just chill.
Yeah, I think it would affect Max worse than it would Perez. But again, Max is just mindset.
Yeah, I think he's single-minded. Right. I'm looking at the list of teams. It's very hard to tell from pre-season testing, more than usual, what on earth where Mercedes are at.
Yeah, I've got two different graphs. One is qualifying pace, according to F1. Mercedes are fourth. They're half a second off Red Bull. And then in race simulation pace, they're second. They're only 0.2 off Red Bull. So, God only knows. It might be really bad qualifier, really good race car.
Yeah. And Lewis has said, Lewis is much happier with the platform. He says there's a lot more time, a lot more speed to come out of that platform. And he feels that they will unlock it as the season goes on.
Yeah.
So
if they've started at a better place, then they can develop better.
Yeah, and he feels that it has got a lot of development potential. So I think we might see a win this season late on.
Yeah.
If he's right, and they can keep, they've got a better concept, and they can keep unlocking it. If they're already second and fourth, yeah, I think it feels quite good. As
much as he has jumped ship to Ferrari, I do get the impression he wants to leave with another win under his belt for Mercedes, like on a high note.
Oh, yeah, I mean, he's not going to be like on gardening leave or anything. He is, like Max, he is utterly focused.
Because you kind of got that impression with, like, Raikkonen and Vettel. When they were a year away from retirement, they were kind of just plodding around.
Yeah, they didn't really have the... I mean, they would have said they had the fire, but they didn't really...
Yeah, but I think Hamilton definitely still does. Because, again, he's kind of old. Like, you'd think he'd almost be getting ready for retirement age, but he's actually moved to another big team. Because what Vettel and Raikkonen did was they ran away to back marker midfield teams to kind of chill for a bit. Like they went to Sauber and to Aston Martin.
But also, I think the impression I got was very much they were going to go in as mentors, because the second driver was quite young, and the team, especially Aston Martin, had very big aspirations of challenging. So therefore, they were like, "Well, this guy's a 4-time world champion. He's seen how you go from nowhere, as in Jaguar, to world champion in a handful of years. Let's get him on board for his experience. Maybe not for his out-and-out track pace, but because he's seen it happen, and we can learn from him."
Yeah, whereas Hamilton is going to Ferrari to win another championship, really.
Yeah, I mean, after the end of 2021, he wants his 8th title. He wants to be better than Schumacher. He wants what he's owed, basically. I mean, even the FIA admitted in the end that the rules weren't followed in that final race. So he wants that 8th title just to actually nail it to the tree and go, "I am the best."
Yeah. But now it's Verstappen he's got to sort of fight against.
Yeah. Anyway, Ferrari. What do your stats say on Ferrari? Again, I've heard some quite good things.
Second on quali, third on race, about the same gap, 0.2 of a second to Red Bull. In fact, exactly the same gap. But again, it's all a bit sort of nebulous and vague at this point.
Well, it's all the normal caveats of pre-season testing, isn't it?
Yeah, but probably second fastest car, it looks like, but still a fair way from Red Bull.
Have you heard anything about any development potential, or are they playing it very close to their chest?
Leclerc said that the car is better than the base they started from last year, and that he feels good with it, basically.
Okay. So it's looking like a Red Bull, Mercedes, Ferrari top 6 at the moment.
Yeah, but I mean, McLaren are a little bit further away. It's just sort of that they're faster than Mercedes on qualifying, and then it's kind of a pretty standard stagger down to the back, where Haas are a massive amount away from everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, McLaren have always been nearly there. They've always had the chance of... Last couple of seasons, you always felt like they could win something. They're just nearly...
Yeah, they haven't actually won anything yet, properly.
No,
Ricciardo did in 2021. He won the Italian Grand Prix.
Yeah, but you kind of feel like it's coming for either Norris or Piastri. You feel like it's going to be happening.
He had that one race, Russia. I don't remember which year. I think 2021 again, or 2022, where Norris was leading, but then it was wet, and he stayed out on the slicks instead of pitting like Lewis did, which was, again, I think kind of a experience thing, because Lewis knew that it was going to get wetter, so he pitted earlier, and just, I think Norris went off the track and only ended up on the podium. Yeah, 2021.
Yeah, he kind of did a huge spin.
2021 Russian Grand Prix, ended up in 7th, actually.
I was going to say I thought he ended up 4th, but there we go.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm looking down the list now. Alpine. I haven't heard anything about Alpine.
Alpine have always seemed a bit of a sort of filler team, to be honest. Like, they never really do anything amazing, but they're also not bad. They kind of just...
Solid midfield.
One team has to come 6th in the championship, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But actually, according to the stats, they're extremely closely matched with Sauber.
Oh, okay.
They're like
Kit,
within...
Sauber, Stake. Yeah.
Yeah, the graph just says Sauber. I'm just going to call them Sauber.
Yeah.
It's just easier. Actually, RB look quite quick as well. They look quicker than Aston Martin. Because a lot of... they've said, Red Bull, that they're working much more closely with RB this year. They're giving them more parts. They're basing their car more on the Red Bull. And that's prompted a lot of other team principals to start questioning whether it's an appropriate sort of dynamic to have.
A proper B team thing.
Yeah.
So it looks like very similar to 2023. That whole midfield of Alpine, RB, Sauber, Aston Martin is going to probably be really tight.
Yeah, I reckon so.
I would imagine McLaren will probably pull away from them, and I reckon probably, unfortunately, Haas and Williams will be behind them. But
yeah,
I mean,
Williams
that
don't look
was
too bad.
But that last year, that was actually more exciting than the front of the race because.
Well, I mean, because last year it went all the way up to Mercedes. Basically, it went all the way up to second. Like Mercedes, Ferrari, McLaren, Aston Martin, at various points were all the second fastest car on the grid. It was just utter chaos. So it might be a bit more settled this year, but we don't really know.
And I always remember, like, the Alpine, Alfa Romeo, as they were then, Sauber, were really, like, within 2 or 3 points, even by the end of the season. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, they were very, very close.
Yeah. So we reckon Haas will be at the back of the grid and Williams will be 9th, unfortunately, by the look of it.
Yeah.
Oh, one more, before we do wrap this up, one more bit of gossip that I think is probably going to rumble on. Mm-hmm. The Andretti Cadillac bid.
Yeah, they didn't get it.
I know, but what's really weird is that which way around was it? FIA encouraged them.
Yes.
And helped them write the proposal, and they got General Motors on board and the rights to use the Cadillac name.
Yeah.
And they got Andretti family on board. So this wasn't like, oh, let's just write down a couple of pages of A4.
No.
This was, they must have probably spent tens of millions of dollars on the bid. And of putting it together and getting, proposals. And the FIA were cheerleading from the sides going, yeah, this will be great. The Concord Agreement, I think, allows for 12 teams on the grid.
I think...
Certainly more than 10.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think you can have 24 cars start a race legally. Yeah. If I recall, I don't know.
Under the current agreement, but then F1 rights or F1 management (FOM) and the 10 existing teams went, but that'll be a smaller slice of our pie. No.
Yeah.
And I think between the two of them, that was just like, if I was the Andrettis, I'd still be fuming now because they must have put time and money into that.
I think they are. Yeah.
They were led up the garden path to say, not that it's a slam dunk, but you've got the FIA on your side.
And all the fans want it because it would be better for the racing. It just would be more fun.
Yeah, and also the kind of strategic global objective of Formula One has been to break into America.
Which they sort of have done. They have done now with Drive to Survive, and they've got like 3 American Grand Prix, which I still think is a bit greedy.
It's big, but then to build on that, wouldn't the next thing be to have a great American name, or 2, Andretti and Cadillac?
Yeah.
I mean, it just seems like the next step to kind of really cement it and go, well, now, I mean, we've got Logan Sargent, and that's about it for the Americans to cheer for.
He's not great, really. But,
no, he's...
But, I mean,
he's
Logan
not a front
Sargent...
runner.
Yeah, American driver, American team, Texas Grand Prix.
Yeah.
Got on the podium, it would be, like, unbelievable. Because I think Formula One's always been quote, global sport that's actually just a European boys' club.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we've got,
definitely.
like, a handful of races in the super oil-rich Middle East, 3 races now in the USA, but, like, only like a handful of races in Asia and South America, and nothing at all in Africa, for example. And then, like, half the calendar's in a tiny little sliver of Europe.
Yeah, I mean, we've said this before. I'm now just going to do a very quick. We've got 20 drivers on the grid.
Yes.
And taking a very kind of broad kind of Western view, so like the English-speaking countries like UK, Canada, America, Australia, New Zealand, plus all of Europe, you've got 1, 2, Russell, Hamilton, Ocon, Gasly, Verstappen. Perez is outside of that because he's from Central America.
Yes.
Take note, Helmut Marko.
That's why.
Central America.
Yeah.
Hulkenberg, Magnussen, Piastri, Norris, Stroll, Alonso, Leclerc, Sainz, Tsunoda.
Yeah, Japanese, properly Japanese.
And Zhou.
Zhou Guanyu. And technically, Albon is racing under a Thai license because he can.
But that's
He's
like
born in London.
That's like 75% of the grid is basically Western.
Yeah.
And like over half the teams are based in the UK around Milton Keynes. It's like
Yeah. I mean,
it tries to be a global sport.
You only get another 3 if you count Piastri, Stroll, and Ricciardo as being non-European, and then everybody else is just that's more than half the grid.
I mean, they're non-European, but also on top of that, they are still kind of Western because they're.
Yeah, they speak English natively.
They're English first language white people, basically.
Yeah.
I'm having a quick look down. I think that kind of covers all the teams in pre-season testing.
Yeah, I think so. Nothing really happened.
No, not in the actual testing. I mean,
it's
the
not
off-season.
Not very exciting. There was a bit of a drain cover drama.
Yeah, I think it's because they switched to ground effect. They're just sucking the drain covers up.
Yeah, that has happened a lot. It's quite fun.
So what we're going to do, this is our first ever podcast. Every race weekend, when there's a race weekend, we're obviously going to watch it because we love Formula One.
Mm-hmm.
And then probably, depending on what the schedule is, like if it's Australia and it's early in the morning, we might record this on the Sunday night. Mm-hmm. We might record it on Monday evening. So I would say by Monday or Tuesday after a race weekend, you can expect a new podcast from us.
Yeah.
To go over basically the same format here, what the drivers have done, what the teams have done, obviously all the gossip and the politics, because that is not half the fun, but that is a big part of it. Who said what to who, any driver changes, any rumours, all that kind of stuff. I think we might be a bit late on the Singapore one. I've had a quick look at the calendar. I can't see any other really big hiccups. Toby and I are actually going out in person to Le Mans in June.
We might be able to squeeze in a 24 Hours of Le Mans special.
Yeah, an actual on-site report. Yeah, so that's what to expect, really. We'll do the same kind of thing as you've heard today. We'll give you an intro. We'll run through the free practices. Probably, give a highlight to any, or what do you call it, those kind of B drivers who have to have a free practice session.
Or junior drivers.
Junior drivers that have turned up. Run through the qualifying, sprint if it's a sprint weekend, and the race. And then you got
they've changed sprint weekends as well. So... I don't remember the order, but I think they've made it so that it goes sprint qualifying and then sprint race, and then you have qualifying and then the race.
I thought it was more interleaved. I thought it went like sprint
it used
quali,
to be.
Real quali. I can't. We'll deal with that when we get to a sprint weekend.
Yeah,
nobody
it'll be
likes
a while.
sprints.
No,
nobody likes sprints. Nobody understands them. So
no, they keep changing them year on year. It must be a nightmare to calculate stats for as well and stuff like databases.
Well, that's I think I mean the F1 DB stopped when they started doing sprints, which is a shame.
Yeah, it's still not gone beyond like the first few races of 2021.
No, anyway.
Oh well.
If you've lasted this long to me and Toby rambling on, thank you ever so much for listening.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever platform you're on, please like and subscribe so you can keep up to date and see what new podcasts we put up. And hopefully, like us, you're really excited at the fact that we are now one weekend away, aren't we? It's actually literally
I mean it's a Saturday as well because it's next one's on a Saturday because of Ramadan starts the week after is Bahrain
Saudi.
and then it goes to Saudi, so they have to have 7 days between the previous race and the next one.
So do we get free practice on a Thursday?
We do, and it's the 29th of February, which is the first F1 session on the 29th of February since 1992.
Wow.
Which is a stat that I figured out all by myself and then tweeted at Crofty, and he said he'll look into it.
Cool.
I'm just recording it here in case anybody else steals it, and I've got this recording for proof.
That's brilliant. Yep. So thank you for listening, and we'll pop a new episode up in about a week's time when we see what happened in Bahrain. And unlike pre-season testing, we might actually have some genuine "this car is fast, that car isn't." Oh my God, what was that driver thinking? Type of analysis rather than, well, maybe kind of which you always get with pre-season.
Yeah. Yep. Cool.
Okay. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.